past few months have not been kind to American workers, and that's even in comparison to the normally poor treatment they've received from America over the entire time that we've been a country. But there are opportunities on the horizon, and so I'm very excited to welcome to the show for the first time the founder and president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, co-founder of the United Farm Workers, labor leader, and civil rights activist. Dolores Huerta, welcome to the Damage Report.
Hello, nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. There's a lot that I'm hoping we'll get an opportunity to talk about. But before we launch into some of what might be possible in the near future, there's a few recent developments that I would love to get your perspective on. Starting with the fact that the Senate negotiations to provide aid to those who have been unemployed, workers who are incredibly uncertain about the state of the economy, those who are being afflicted by the pandemic. They've now gone on recess for 3 weeks, and so no deal was reached, no aid is coming. What do you think about the way that the American workers and those who've been recently unemployed have been treated by the government during this pandemic?
Well, you might say the American workers and the American people, this is so heartless of them to do this. We know that unemployment insurance ran out for people over a week ago. And how are these families going to pay the rent? How are they going to get food? I mean, this is so heartless. And this definitely calls for some kind of a voting revolt, you might say, so that people can really throw these people out of office, those that are responsible, to bring this much suffering on the American public, on families, on children. I mean, this is unconscionable, unconscionable.
And I have to say that while I obviously don't have very high expectations for what the government is going to provide to workers, the idea that they passed effectively one bill at the beginning of this whole experience, and really there's been nothing since then. And since that first bill, over 100,000 additional workers have died, tens of millions have lost their jobs. It's surprising the extent to which they seem to feel that there isn't going to, you mentioned a revolt of voting. They don't seem to be afraid of that. It's as if they believe that the American people aren't going to respond in a negative way to the way that they've been treated.
Yeah, and I think when you use the word government, you've got to be more specific, because we do know that the House of Representatives, under the leadership of Nancy Pelosi, passed a $3 trillion bill called the HEROES Act. And included in that, there was, of course, all kinds of assistance, hazard pay for essential workers, which included farm workers, some type of relief for local governments, also money for education, all of the things, including some type of relief also for, we know many rural areas in our country, they don't have the broadband that they need, everything that we need in our country right now. And maybe not a permanent fix, but definitely a fix to get us through this pandemic. And $600 a week for people so that they could buy food and put some money on the rent, because sometimes we know that doesn't even cover their entire rent that they have, but some kind of relief. And to see that the Senate, the Republican leadership of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, and the people that are with him would just do this. And I mean, I think, we've seen all of these protests on the street, and my gosh, if we ever need something to be a march on Washington is right now. And we know we can't do that because, with the pandemic, we have to be socially distanced. We don't want people to gather together. But I think this is an outrage, and people should be totally outraged. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't really, like you said, when you opened up, you said the government. A lot of people think, oh, it's the government. They don't realize, no, it's the Senate of the United States of America, and it's led by this one Senate Republican, Mitch McConnell, and his cronies that are doing this. So again, when they tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, you had people that were storming the offices of the different legislators to say, no, we don't want you to get rid of this little Affordable Care Act that we have. The first time that really people had some way to get some kind of health insurance, and they had to back down. So I think it's kind of time that we do that again, that we just go to these senators' offices, the Republican senators, and if we have to picket in front of those, and definitely one thing that we can do, we all have cell phones, and a lot of us have computers, and just storm them with emails right now and say, what are you doing? This is like if you're in a war and you have soldiers that abandoned their posts, their military posts. This is what this is they're going AWOL. They're going AL. They were abandoning their duties that they were elected for, and unconscionable.
I think it's a very fair point. I would say that Mitch McConnell deserves the lion's share of the blame specifically. And in terms of, I agree with you that I think that people have to show their opposition to that. I think that there should be picketing, although as you say, we have to bear in mind that it is a pandemic. So with social distancing and with masks and all of that, I think that there might be, and I'm interested in your opinion on this. There might be this belief that we're just about 3 weeks away or 3 months away from the election, or so, a little bit less than that. And so that's an opportunity to show how people feel. But I know that a lot of people are worried that with this ongoing assault against the post office, that there's concerns about whether their vote will actually be heard. And this attack against the post office is really attack against the infrastructure and the workers. So again, there's this labor angle that goes through the entirety of it, that postal workers are not being given the resources they need, and that might end up affecting the ability of the people to have their voices be heard in November.
Yeah, I think this is all a political ploy by President Trump. He signed these executive orders and he's saying they want to give people $400 a week, not $600 a week. He's going to take the money from FEMA. And here we have all of these hurricanes coming and these natural disasters, where again, where do we get the money for people when that happens? We get it from FEMA because they're supposed to take care of the people that are the victims of natural disasters. And so I think that the president wants to put a spotlight on himself and think that somehow people are going to be grateful because they're going to get $400 a week, if that even happens, because we know that constitutionally he does not have that authority to do that, and to stop payroll deductions, which will of course hurt Social Security. And so all of these schemes that he wants to, I think, put the spotlight again on himself, so that somehow people will think that this president is bringing them some kind of relief right now while the Senate is out on vacation, really. And so I think this is just part of the political ploy. And then of course his attack on the post office is part of the same game plan. He's doing everything that he can to try to hamper the elections. I've heard this story by one of the postal masters in her office, and I can't remember which state it was, where they have actually removed equipment. Right now, they have removed the equipment that they are going to need in order to be able to process the mail that they now have. And that's right now is going to inhibit them in their current jobs of delivering the mail, instead of adding more equipment for the vote by mail, which we know is going to be part of the election on November 3rd.
Yeah, I am very worried about that. And it's not like, before this period, it wasn't like the post office was just being showered with resources and help and manpower. They were already in a tough place, and now it's only gotten worse. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.